What is up, you guys? Naesam here, and as a lot of you have seen, I killed Agatha yesterday, the first day it was out, or night it was out on US servers. And a lot of people have been asking me, like, what exactly does she do, and how do you kind of work around her mechanics to kill her easily. And in this video I'm going to be kind of discussing what she does and what I did to kill her, and then some alternate strats that people have figured out. So, hopefully this helps some of you guys, and let's get started. So, first thing first, she is an imp mother. She has a whole bunch of ads, and her health actually varies depending on what spec you are. It does not scale to eye level, so the more geared the better, and it's a solo activity, so you kind of want to be watching yourself, or you want to be using legendaries and stuff that help you heal more. Basically, you want to be playing defensively as much as you can so you don't just kind of die. Let's talk about the ads she has. So, her most prevalent ads, like the ones you'll notice the most, are the imp servants. They come from the other side of the room of her, usually about 40 to 50 yards away, I think. I'm not actually sure, I haven't actually calculated it, but it's somewhere around 40 yards away, and they kind of run up to her somewhat slowly, and if they get to her, they start casting something along the lines of funnel energy, and it will heal her for about 100,000 health per second each. So these you want to prioritize. You want to CC them and kill them as quick as you can. Don't let them get that cast off interrupted if you have to. The way I dealt with this was, if there are other ads out, I would kind of like drop an Earthbind Totem or something. I would slow them before they got to her, or at least slow one of them so I have more time to deal with it. Some people would go Earth Grab Totem and kind of root them back there. I'm not really sure what melee would do about this. They might just want to wait and then interrupt or stun or whatever once they get to the boss. But basically, you want to control them, make sure they don't get very many casts off, because the more heals on the boss, the harder it's going to be to finish the boss later. The next ad you'll probably notice is called the Fuming Imp. Basically what it does is it runs to you, and if it gets to you and you are not moving at the time, if it gets like to your location and you are not moving, if you're moving it kind of keeps following you even if you're moving very slowly. If you are not moving, it will start casting something called Plague Zone. You cannot interrupt this. You can knock it back, you can stun it, but if it finishes the cast, it'll blow up, causing a pool to form on the ground, and it'll knock you back. It does a lot of damage, and you're going to need this space later, so you want to minimize the amount of pools you get in the middle of the room. I found that as an LA Shaman, it wasn't really optimal to stop and try and kill them all. Some of them you can kill if there's nothing else going on, but generally you kind of want to focus on the boss and just have them blow up out of the way. You can dodge the explosion, as you've probably seen in the kill video that is playing in the background. When it blows up, or when it starts casting, it will no longer move, so you can just run out into the middle of the room again, and you don't really have to worry about it coming out. You just gotta get it in a good position before it blows up. Another thing you'll notice is that sometimes she goes immune, not the shield, but actually immune, and that is because there is an Umbral Imp near her. If you see Umbral Imps, you want to be bursting them down as quick as possible. I personally saved cooldowns for most of them, because if they're up for very long, you're going to start falling behind. She starts getting shields, and she starts casting her Dark Fury. So basically, if you see an Umbral Imp, kill it as fast as you can. The next imp is a Smoldering Imp. They just sit there casting fire bolts, and their damage kind of starts ramping up the more they have. So you want to kill those as well. Basically, this fight's all about killing imps, as you might imagine from an imp mother. So now let's talk about what the boss itself does. She's going to cast some things that you can't really avoid, like Shadow Dagger or whatever, and then she's going to cast some things that are going to appear on the ground that you have to move out of, like a little purple swirly thing. And if you have healing pants like I did as an Elemental Shaman, you don't really have to move out of it, unless you're kind of low on health. But generally it's a good idea to move out of that unless you really need to kill something, or you have passive healing. And then the biggest thing that she's doing that you need to watch out for is called Dark Fury. Dark Fury is a cast that slowly ramps up and continues to do more and more damage, and she has a shield on her at the same time. You have to break through the shield before you can interrupt the cast. If you don't do this somewhat quickly, the cast is going to get kind of out of control and it's going to start killing you very quickly, and you won't be able to out-heal it. So when you shoot that shield, you want to burst it down as quick as you can. It starts out pretty slow, so you do have some time. You have time to stop and kill imps if you really need to, but generally you kind of want to kill it as quick as you can. You may not want to use cooldowns on it, but focus it down, get that thing gone, and interrupt it as soon as you are comfortably able to. So one of the most annoying things she does is she likes to teleport a lot. Phase 1 is basically 100% to 48%. She starts at the location you see here, obviously. I don't know where else she would start. And you get her down to 48% before having to move. This phase is pretty easy, so if you have drums or you're a shaman with heroism, I would not recommend using that in this phase unless you're really, really struggling for whatever reason. And if you're really struggling here, you probably aren't going to be able to do it. But pessimism aside, this phase is pretty easy. Basically, the strat that I used was I kind of stood on the right side for the fuming imps. I bursted down the imp servants. I bursted down the other imps like I told you to. And that's pretty much it. It's fairly simple. And at 48%, she teleports up to the top, at the top of the thing, and starts dropping boulders on you. The strat is fairly similar, but be careful because she also will start dropping pools on you outside of just the fuming imps, so you want to be standing in an ideal location for these pools to be at as much as you can. Sometimes you're going to get a bad spawn because you're running from a boulder, but generally you want to stand in an area that you don't mind there being a pool in, like at the very corner or something. Try to avoid dropping any in the middle, because if you need to dodge a boulder, the pools will slow you. They put a slow on you. So you really don't want those anywhere that you need to run. And try not to block the entire hallway, because you will need to run back later. So once you get her to 32%, she teleports again back to the location you started at. Not the location she started at, but the location you started at. So now you're going to be facing away from the boulders to hit her. Imps will be spawning on her still, and the servants will be coming from the location you just came from in the little... Well, basically, the imps are coming from where the boulders come from, but closer, about 40 yards away from her again. And this is where it gets kind of tough, because you have to deal with everything you were dealing with before. You have less space, because you had to drop pools earlier in all of Phase 1 for 50% of the boss. And you also have boulders coming from behind you that you can't see until they get to you, unless you're constantly turning your camera back, which is tough to do. So this is where I decided to hero at. And this is also why emphasis on make use of your space. Put those imp puddles right up against the water if you can, or the sludge stuff. And you're definitely going to need this space here. It's very important that you have the extra space to move around, because the boulders are coming and everything. And here, this is definitely where you want to hero if you have any trouble with boulders coming from behind. And then it's basically the same fight again. Just keep in mind that if you have to choose between a boulder and running into the sludge hurts a lot less. So the sludge will hurt for about 700k a second that you're in there. So if you run in and out really quickly, it's 700k, at most 1.4 million, and the boulder hits for like almost 3 million, if not more. So don't get by boulders, get hit by sludge. And then at 16%, she teleports back up to the top again. You have to run all the way back over there and focus on her up there instead. And this is where you also need to be focusing on saving room on the first time she's up there, because you need that room again. But as I said earlier, I found it a lot easier to deal with the lack of space up there, because it's a little tighter of an area than I did with the boulders coming from behind. So that's where I decided to hero at. But yes, you're going back up there again, and then same fight still. It's basically just deal with the ads. No matter how low she is, you still need to focus on those ads, especially the umbral imps, because they're going to make you immune, and the imp servants because they're going to heal her. The imp servants healing is something you can pretty easily out DPS though. Both of them casting at the same time is about 200k healing per second, which most DPS can outdo pretty well. But unless she's really, really low, I wouldn't recommend trying to out DPS it. And obviously the umbral imps you have to kill, and the fire imps you probably want to kill anyway. The fuming imps at this point, when you're up there again, just make sure you're not going to kill yourself due to the boulders or whatever, and just put them somewhere where you don't need right now, because there's not much left in this fight. She's not teleporting again until she dies. So one tip I have that goes for all specs is try out varying foods. Like, don't just go with your crit buff or mastery buff or your haste buff or whatever you usually use. Try out things like, I was streaming when I did this, and one of my viewers suggested trying something called bear tartar. So I gave it a shot, and it actually, the first time I used it, I got the kill. It was so nice. That was the thing that made it so every time I killed an imp, I got a movement speed buff. I got to move 50% faster for like 4 seconds, and it turned out to be way nicer than I ever thought it would be. And there are some foods out there that I'm not even aware of, but I'm pretty sure there's one that like might even heal you or something when you get a kill. I'm not entirely sure, but I would definitely look into some different foods if you're having trouble, and maybe see if you can find something that works for you and your current situation, because you might just find that it's a very serious benefit. So that about sums up all the mechanics. It's a somewhat simple fight, but at the same time it's fairly hard, because 1, there's no dungeon journal, and 2, it's just highly tuned. You have to have a lot of gear, and you have to play it just right to get it to actually die. But this part of the video, since my main is an LA Shaman, my channel kind of revolves around LA Shamans, I'm going to mention what I used on this fight talents-wise. because I used kind of a weird build. For one thing, I used, well, let's just start from the top actually. I used Totem Mastery, Ancestral Guidance, Lightning Surge Totem, Ancestral Swiftness, Elemental Blast, Liquid Magma Totem, and Lightning Rod. Now, I'll kind of explain some of these. So Totem Mastery is pretty obvious, Chain Lightning. Ancestral Guidance, I don't actually think I used it in the kill. I just never needed it. But I found that it was really, really nice to have. Really, really nice to have, because a lot of the time that you're low is when there's a lot of imps up. And you can just sit there AoEing and completely top yourself off with one button, and you continue your pressure. The big thing here is that if you're low because of imps, you either have to stop and heal up and lose all your damage on the imps that you could have done in that time and probably end up falling behind and dying, or you can just try and kill them and then heal up after. This gives you the best of both worlds. You can kill them while healing. It's very, very nice to have. I would definitely recommend going with this because you don't really need Gust of Wind, and Wind Rush Totem you obviously don't need. So unless you really have trouble with the movement, I would definitely suggest trying Ancestral Guidance. Lightning Surge Totem, I found that I could put it in a really, really specific location and stun the Imp Servants both at the same time. Some people go Earth Grab Totem and root the Servants. One strat that I've seen that is somewhat popular is just kiting the Servants the entire time, but you have to have a lot of damage for this strat. If you're extremely geared, you can try it, basically rooting the Servants, putting Earthbind down, making sure they don't get to the boss. You might have to kill the first set, but after that she's teleporting somewhat frequently, so you can just kind of keep having them run towards her, and then she teleports away by the time they get to them, or by the time they get to her, and it's kind of a risky strat because if you fall behind at all, then you're screwed. So I went with Lightning Surge Totem. Then next choices are kind of obvious, and Liquid Magma Totem, I just use that for the ads, and Lightning Rod I use that because I'm constantly cleaving the ads and you get a lot of damage on the boss. I did try Ascendance on a few times, and my problem with Ascendance was that basically I would have this huge damage burst and it would go super well, and then I would just kind of fizzle out and I would start falling behind on the ads, and I would kind of just die at like 15% because I just didn't have enough damage to continue. Or she would get a shield up and I couldn't break it because I have to kill the ads, and I couldn't kill the ads in time and break the shield before dying because I have to stop and heal up, and it's just kind of, it was a mess. So I decided Lightning Rod was definitely the better option here. So now for legendaries. This part is the part that kind of sucks for a lot of people. The way to kill this right now is to go with the healing legendaries, basically. Some people have killed it with Pride As. I personally killed it with the healing pants. I do not have Pride As, but the legendary combo I went with, having everything but Pride As, at the time I had everything but Pride As, belt, and the trinket. I went with Sefu's and healing pants. Healing pants lets you just kind of stand in some of the mechanics, and has a constant passive healing going, which is something that Ellie really, really lacks. And Sefu's lets you kill the imps really quickly because your Earthquake is stunning them, or you stun the Imp Servants, you get a Pride As proc, or Sefu's proc rather, and you get to kill them really quickly. Yeah, I found it really, really helpful. I tried Hero Helm, I tried Earthquake Shoulders, and I found that Sefu's honestly it worked so much better for me. So if you have this combo, I would suggest trying it. If you have Pride As, maybe try Pants and Pride As, maybe just go for the full healing. But the combo I killed it with was Pants and Sefu's. So one last thing I wanted to mention was Earth Elemental. Unfortunately, in my kill, I did not ever have to use Earth Elemental. My kill actually went really smooth. I didn't have to use most things. But a lot of pulls, I found that using Earth Elemental was a very, very serious benefit. He kind of got aggro on a lot of the imps, who would take a lot of the hits, and it lets you heal up for a minute, it lets you kind of recover, and he lasted like almost a full minute, usually. Unfortunately, I'd usually die before he actually went away, because you couldn't get aggro on all the imps. You got aggro on most of them, but you just couldn't get it on all of the little casters in the back, and they would kind of finish me off, because I couldn't catch up. But he is very nice to use, and if you are lacking healing legendaries, I would definitely suggest trying this kind of cycling your Wall, AG, and Earth Elemental, and kind of seeing if you can just stay alive by doing that. Whenever you start having any issues, whenever ads are up, just kind of use one of those to keep yourself high of health so you can heal up when they're gone. So sorry if this video is a little unorganized. It's hard to kind of make a structured guide on something that doesn't even have a dungeon journal, and something that I can't go back and look at because I've already done it. I don't really want to spend 100 nether shards to go back and look at buffs and stuff. But I think I covered everything. If I didn't, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to respond and let you know the answer to your question. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys learned something, and if you want to see more, subscribe, like the video if you liked it, all that other stuff, if you can understand a word I just said. But thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.